Hi, this is Scott Bowman, the creator behind ideaBRICKworks. I today would like to do a video about a friend of mine, Joe Meno. He is best known for being the editor in um, everything for the BrickJournal. Please, I will make sure that we have his contact info, but please make sure and subscribe to that wonderful magazine. You can both be online, but you can also get it in print version. But anyway, he was gracious enough to give me a couple of his kits that he does, and since I do kits too, I thought it'd be fun to kind of do his and show you what he does, and then kind of a little bit of a contrast to the way I do it. I do it a little more mass production wise than Joe does. But I'm really happy with what Joe does. And I'll show you a couple that I bought from him over the years, because I do support our community too. I'm not just out selling to the community and to everyone, but I am trying to support it. So anyway, this is for you, Joe. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you, the people watching, will enjoy it as well. Again, make sure and look up BrickJournal, and make sure and subscribe. And he does sell some things too on Etsy and on his website. There you go. Okay, so again, I did talk about Joe. Joe's a good friend of mine. I got to meet him a fairly long time ago at Brickworld, and it was because he was going to do an article on a friend of mine and I. Chris Hettinger and I did a project called the Science Center of Iowa, and he put us in the BrickJournal. And so we kind of known each other. I've been a subscriber ever since, and that was like 2014, 2013. And then we became friends. We communicated a few times. I bought a few of his kits. And then at the Brick Slopes in 2018, I got to show him my Saturn V, and he did an article on that. And it was really wonderful. I love the way he put together the article. It was very complimentary, but he's a great writer. He has the passion, everything. So I promised to show you a couple other things I have gotten from him. One of them was the P38 Lightning. It's a really fun little kit. This isn't exactly how I got it from Joe. I've made some changes to it, and it's going to be part of a microfighter series that I'm going to have out pretty soon. It did not come with the stickers. That's something that I've added, but very graciously, I must say, Joe understands that this is a kind of a change from his, but I want to give him credit, and I will on this particular kit as well, that he was the germ of this particular version of the P38. So he does, aircraft. He does a lot of different things, and I really enjoy his stuff. Probably one of my favorite things, and I had to get this the minute I saw it. He got fascinated by, and I can't remember where it is, and maybe I can get Joe to pop into the mentions on this, but he saw the set of the Enterprise. The original show had been rebuilt in like a strip mall somewhere in the country, and he kind of got fascinated about it, and he is a Trekkie just like I am, and so he did this Enterprise, and I really liked it, and so I got it from him. Again, I like to support my community as well. One thing to note, that this is the stand is something I did. I had to modify it a little bit, Joe. Hopefully you'll forgive me in order to do that, but I wanted it to stand up and to be something that could then be on display, and so I did modify it a little bit. And maybe sometime I'll post how I did that, because I know there are a lot of other people that have his set as well. But anyway, I really love it, and I'm sure I'm going to love these next two that I did that he gave me. So a little of the backstory. When we had met and started discussing the the Saturn V project, the STEM Moonshot, I had given him a set. And then my daughter and son-in-law live in DC, and when I was there, the four of us got together for dinner. And we've done that 2 or 3 times now. And, you know, in addition to the times we've gotten together at a convention. So during the last one, which was, you know, actually last year, I was helping do a bunch of projects around my kid's house. He gave me a couple of kits. Such a nice guy. So anyway, this first one is his mini space shuttle in stand. I've seen this on his website and Etsy. You know, Joe does his own instructions, whereas I've kind of converted into studio. And I'm not exactly sure how Joe does it, but he does a good job. It's kind of geared towards his magazine, so they tend to be kind of a stacked, smaller images in order to be able to be published. And so, you know, that's kind of the way he goes about instructions. But they're very clear. He's got a great, you know, layout, the part materials, all that kind of stuff. So, again, and he does it, you know, his packaging is not, we get a little different than the way I package, but again, it all works for him. So this first one is the mini shuttle. I guess, you know, starting with, I'm get stapled right. Little quality assurance there, Joe. Okay, but I can fix that. We have the technology. There you go. Okay. Always have to start with 1. Okay. So lots of black and white. Again, you know it's the space shuttle, and it's a smaller scale. It's got a fun snot brick. That's a bracket. I just learned this the other day because I was trying to look up for a part for a kit I'm working on, and for a commission, and didn't know what to call that. I kept calling it snot brick, but it's a brick. Okay. Oh, it's still on top there. Joe's big into space. He's big into tech. You know, he's really a graphic artist. He still does a lot of sketching. Does a lot of mocks, smaller stuff. But, you know, he's really known as our #1 cheerleader for all things Lego, all things to do with community. You know, he's a huge fan of engaging, especially kids. I love that he is very, very involved in robotics and really helps a lot of teams get started in First Lego League, but just in general, you know, he's taught some camps on how think about what I'm doing. How to do tech, how to, and of course I've already done something wrong. That's right. That was what was wrong. 2x3. It's the only thing, I guess, Joe, for people with bad eyes like me, that's what makes it a little harder to see. Okay. Now we can do that. I've also seen Joe give keynotes for conventions. He's very, very good at that. Does a lot of fun presentations. I love, he's got kind of he used to work at Walt Disney World and as a cast member, and he loves all things Disney, and he does some pretty fun Disney characters, and one of them's in a spacesuit, and I gave him one of my micro shuttles once because I loved that at a show, I think at BrickJournal actually, and it ended up with Mickey flying it, just because that's something I like to give out when I'm doing one. When I'm doing shows, I like to give out kind of my prize of what I think it should be. Okay, page one done. You know, it's really a privilege that I've gotten to be in BrickJournal twice. I am very thankful to Joe for that, that he's featured us, that he does a wonderful job with that magazine. And you know, we're in the middle of COVID-19 right now, and you know, it seems kind of bleak, but I, you know, we don't have any, you know, we've had some virtual conventions and some of those kinds of things, but you know, it's not fun right now. So, you know, having the ability to build something and to enjoy our hobby is awfully nice to be able to do that. This makes sense now. I needed that kind of bracket in order to be able to put the thrusters on. Okay, so the next thing looks like I need to get the fin, the rear stabilizer. Now the main engines. You know, a lot of people, I'd like to talk a little bit about space shuttles or anything I'm doing, but you know, a lot of people think that this is what the space shuttle used once it was in orbit, and that's not true. Those engines were fed by the fuel in the external fuel tank, and were only there for launch. Once they were on a trajectory and were in orbit, they would then, of course, drop the external tank, and these engines had no fuel anymore. So all of the attitude adjustments and anything they had to do was both the, you know, onboard attitude thrusters, that are quite a few of them in the nose, but then these units also had that, and these were the ones that were used mainly for deorbit, getting higher orbits, those types of things. And you know, one of the things is when the shuttle landed, they had to get the fuel out of these. Fuel was pretty explosive and noxious, and so in space it's not that big a deal, but once you get it on the ground, so they had to get those emptied pretty quickly. Oh, you didn't get a stand. So some jumpers. Oh, these are the old jumpers that don't have a groove. Makes them a little harder to take off. This doing it on the cam, so it was funky. There you go, Joe Meno and his, just to make sure I get it right, his mini space shuttle and stand. Speaking of the mini micro, when I was talking about the one I gave Joe, is if you're ever at a convention and I'm at a convention and you get one of these, it's because I really, really liked your build, regardless about other prizes you may have gotten. This is actually a little, I sold this as a kit. It's my tribute to the space shuttle with the external tank. And I think I've actually, no, I haven't. I think there's one or two left, but I haven't decided whether I'm going to make more of these or not. But anyway, I liked it mostly. Kids can take it apart exactly, the solid rocket boosters, that kind of thing. It's kind of a fun little build. Okay, we'll take a little break and then I'll do the next one. Okay, so one thing I wanted to do was to show you, this happens to be the article from December of 2018 that was on the STEM Moonshot program, but it's a pretty fun, you'll see that when you get the BrickJournal, he has all sorts of builds. He's a great writer. He has fun stuff. He covers just about every genre and type of building. He always has some things that you can build. I built a few of those over my time subscribing, and in this case, he's got the article on STEM Moonshot with that ugly guy next to the rocket. And one thing I liked was he took this really fun image of me. He was on top of the ladder after I was putting together. And, you know, it's funny, when I first looked at the article, I didn't even see this one. That's probably one of my favorite photos of all time. It related to the STEM Moonshot. So anyway, again, it's something that you can subscribe to, get lots of different information, different books, all sorts of stuff that he's involved with. So now the second build. So this was an X-plane. He had been, I follow him on Twitter and Facebook, and he was on Facebook, and he was talking about trying to do this. Little did I know that he was planning on giving me one. I didn't expect it, but then when we had dinner, he had one of these for me. So we share things for airplanes. We love airplanes, both of us, and I really like the all sorts of things that he does. But anyway, this had some unique things related to it, including the swept. The X-29 was an experimental forward swept. Also had some canards that they use that for. So again, it was very maneuverable. I'm not quite sure why it wasn't adopted, but again, it was an experimental plane that I followed quite a bit. So again, he's got his great instructions. And let's put this one together. It's going to be interesting to see how he gets that swept forward shape, because he said that it's pretty solid when we had dinner, and so I'm kind of looking forward to. He's got the dark blue, which is fun. That's kind of a NASA, again for the X-wings instead of just black or something else. So that dark blue is kind of fun. It's got a very sharp point. I frankly have not seen this before, so I wonder what set that came out of. So let's get started. So 1x4 jumper. Ooh, the 1x1 brackets, which is a very useful part. Oh, interesting. So he's got the jumper going into the center post of a brick that gets him off of, and plus that's an interesting, again, this gets used, maybe not enough. It just an idea for something I've been struggling with. But the idea that these hooks are kind of tow hooks, whatever you want to call them, they actually fit a stud, and so you can get a good connection for the top of that. So that's a fun way to build. So the first blue pieces. The one thing about 1x1s is you can see that I can set it off, so you have to make sure and align anything that's a 1x1, which is why it's not my favorite piece. But in micro building, you just about have to have it, or have to use it. Not very many pieces, but micro is supposed to be that. You're not supposed to have a lot of pieces. It's supposed to be much more of a suggestive. It's got to give you enough of the build. Now there's where you can see being that half stud off, he was able to get a center line type build, which is for any kind of sweep of a wing or something on a micro scale. That's very, very, very difficult. Oh, no, I didn't use that one. That's interesting. Oh. Okay, looks like here is how we are going to make the wings. Use the little shelf or guide, track. Not exactly sure what you're supposed to call that. Should look it up on BrickLink. That's how I learned the bracket. Okay, here we go. So this is how we got the sweep. Now having that like bracket there, which isn't, yeah, it's about half of a stud, not quite. Maybe it's a third of a stud, or third of a stud. But look how it stops it, so you've got them in the right position. Good idea. And then he's using I call him a shelf brick. I know that's probably not the right term, That way it doesn't need, but it holds those in so that they don't come out of that little assembly. Okay, so now that's not a very strong build at this point, so I'm sure we're going to add something to the top of it. Get some more jumpers. Okay. So the idea is that having that one jumper on the top holds that together. So that holds it in place. I'll probably add some landing gear. I'll have to look up. I'm sure they're tricycle, but I'm just be curious to know what that configuration actually is. Myself there. Jumper makes a good fuselage there. Again, that's not a very strong connection, and so he is using the tail as a way to secure it. A little head on something. One back. You know, this might be a good technique to make an F-104. Which would be, I wanted to make one of those. In fact, it kind of looks a little like enough. We get a silver, or, you know, light bluish gray. I remember he asked for a vote on this, and I struggle with the same thing, is the tail is way too thick, but I think it just doesn't look right if it doesn't have that. Okay, fun little build. I really like this, the swept forward. This gives me all sorts of ideas on how to maybe do an F-86 and an F-104, F-101. So yeah, I like this a lot. I think that he did a good job. It's really fun. It's simple, yet really suggestive of that. About the only thing is, it's got a somewhat of a weak underbelly, just because of the way it had to be built. I might, yeah, again, because of the way you had to secure that, there wasn't a lot of options there. But anyway, very fun. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate your kindness and your help over all the years. And again, if you like my videos, please subscribe. and see my other content, go to ideaBRICKworks on Etsy and Facebook, and you can see some of my work, some of the things I do. But also go to Joe's website, the BrickJournal, and remember, he's got some fun stuff on Etsy too. I don't know if he still has those, but so again, he's a creative, wonderful, lovely guy, and I am proud to count him as a friend. Thanks, Joe. And also, I just want to shout out to my producer, I guess, the post-production crew that does the finishing touches on all these videos. Sam Jones from England. Take a bow, Sam. Please insert your picture. And again, Sam's a good friend of mine, and from England, and he's been doing quite a bit to help me expand my YouTube and what I do. So thank you, and have a great day. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate a like. To learn more about what ideaBRICKworks does, make sure and subscribe to this channel.